Thank you, everybody, of course, in the crowd for joining. I am, of course, a Hunter, one of the community managers over here at Off-Chain Labs, building Arbitrum. And today we are speaking with Bracket Labs. Essentially, actually, a project that went live a little over a week ago. And I'm joined today by, of course, Michael, Pelly, and Jason of Bracket Labs. And we're just going to be talking all about their project today, and frankly, just like diving into their protocol, just, to make sure that just everyone's aware and everyone's able to kind of participate in their kind of new reimagined leverage products that they've been kind of touting. How's it going, guys? I know I just asked, but you guys ready to talk about bracket and Arbitrum stuff?
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate the audience.
Awesome. Yeah. No. In that case, I think before even going jumping into kind of bracket, as a protocol or even the company itself, you mind maybe just kind of running through maybe each one of you, if you don't mind, and Mike, you can probably lead. Just tell us about yourself and maybe a little bit of the team background.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that, and thanks for having us. Background wise, on my side, mostly actually in kind of traditional fintech. Originally worked for Bloomberg, doing some cool stuff with their forensic trade reconstruction, message compliance teams with bulge bracket banks, and that's where I first ran into like encryption in a professional setting. And as a kind of a product of that, found Ethereum, and was really kind of engaged with the smart contract concept. So that really, that was really the bug that bit me in like 2015, and then spent a couple of years just tinkering, and then eventually worked with Pelly, one of my other co-founders here at Consensus on the Consensus Capital team, and Token Foundry teams, where it was pretty exciting working in the early days of Ethereum. 2019 left there. We started an advisory firm called Deer Creek, working with a lot of the top foundations in the space on growth, business development type of activities, research, things of that nature. And then we started this new venture with Jason, and we teamed up, and since then it's been kind of 1.5 years now working on this project. So with that, maybe Jason, you can give just a very brief background on your experience. Then we can go to
Sure.
Pelly.
Yeah, I'm the chief technology officer. Lots of years of experience running large projects and startups. Worked for some very large TradFi financial institutions. Have a CFA. Have other credentials, a PhD in computer science. So I did all of the coding around it. So excited to be here and excited to explain what makes us unique. Pelly?
Hi, everyone. This is Pelly. Like Mike mentioned, I've been working in crypto for quite some time, since 2017. I started also in traditional finance, in banking, and private equity. So I know generally what institutional investors are looking for. And then when I transitioned over to crypto, built one of the first crowdfunding platforms that dovetailed into the ICO world, called Seed Invest. We got purchased by Circle, and then worked at Consensus as head of partnerships, and then to Deer Creek, and now Bracket. So excited to be here.
So in a nutshell, pretty much, you're definitely none of you are essentially new to any of this stuff. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Um, so I think that maybe from there, I think maybe having a little more clarity around what kind of Bracket Labs is, and I think maybe that includes Bracket Protocol and BracketX.
Sure. Yeah, we can give a high level on that to start. So when we came together, we wanted to look at the market and see what was really missing in the DeFi space, because we thought that was super exciting, underpenetrated. Eventually, will grow to be a much bigger thing than it is today. Grow beyond its kind of initial silly things and farming and all that, and get to something more legit, and that can be used at scale. And so we came in the market, and we took a look at what was happening in the derivative space, and we were looking at some of the core primitives that power every single financial market. And one of the things we looked at was like volatility and options, and said, this is really really interesting. Why hasn't this taken off? And we looked at the pricing and said that doesn't really make sense for Web3. And so bracket protocol was more or less the the child of Bracket Labs to develop a DeFi primitive that could simplify traditional options and structured products to better suit the Web3 landscape. And so the organization Bracket Labs, kind of has a lot of ideas for how to do that. We have our very first product, BracketX, which is demonstrating how it can be applied, right? How native features, and we'll get into those, can be applied to better service kind of a Web3 environment. And BracketX is realistically kind of that first product. And I'll give a very high, like a high level of it, and Jason can go into the details when we get there. But BracketX is a market where folks can go take a position on the market, whether it's long or short, and get access to kind of these preset leverage potential structured products that are similar to bear put and call spreads and covered call spreads, bull call spreads. And so, with special features built in, though, because a lot of the things that that occur in Web3, or sorry, Web2, can't really be ported over easily, especially pricing, because blockchains are very slow at repricing, and so it's just a challenge there. And so we wanted to provide that leverage potential over a range. So basically, you could decide, hey, over this potential range of asset, or asset price, uh, I can get up to this max potential leverage over a set duration, and that's never really been easy to do in the past, right? To build that product, you could buy an option pretty easily, but to sell one and write the other leg, required a margin account and other things that were really not possible in blockchain as it is. And pricing, maybe Jason, you could kind of briefly discuss that, is one of the core features and innovations that really makes us stand out, I think, from the market just in general around the protocol.
Yeah, no, in terms of the pricing, why don't I get to that later when,
Okay.
yeah,
Just in general, the protocol is kind of focused on reimagining that formula, the options formula, so that it can be used in options can be used in Web3 a little bit better natively, like options like products can be used more natively. So that's what we did.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and I think you know, obviously, Arbitrum kind of being like I think I'd almost call it like a breeding ground for like innovation. It's really cool just to see like again projects like yourselves coming on and really trying to kind of break the barrier in terms of just like like taking what I guess already exists and trying to like kind of either build on top of it or even just make it kind of fit users' needs a little bit more than again what's already out there. Um, I think like I think with that though, something I mentioned earlier, um, you guys have been live already for a little over 1 week. Maybe if we can talk a little bit about like how that launch went and maybe what you guys saw, kind of from initially just launching on Arbitrum and seeing what the users brought you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been a little over a week since our launch. We were in testnet for a little while just to kind of test the waters and get user feedback on some features, and we adapted that and then we launched. Right now we have 9,761 total transactions, so pretty successful initial launch. We had initial series of kind of NFTs to commemorate that. So in the protocol, NFTs are like NFT IDs associated with each of the contracts you buy. So the initial 250 got diamond, the next 1,000 got black, gold, etc. So it's pretty cool, and they pretty much those initial series have been claimed. We've had 7,419 buyers with 219 funders. So a really good start considering where the market is, right? We have very low volatility, and but we consider that a really successful launch.
No, that not, honestly, that's very great to hear. I think that's like that's actually a very interesting kind of a game plan there too. Like, so you said you guys like have NFTs kind of representing people's positions. Is that right, or just like representing the deposits and whatnot?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll get into some of the innovations in a little bit because they're a little bit more complicated. But yeah, one of the key features of on the protocol is that each of the contracts on the buyer side is associated with an NFT ID. So it's easy to it's an NFT essentially. Like each contract's an NFT, so it's easy to claim and associate with those who are buying. Right.
Totally hear you on that, and I think like maybe even something worth like quickly bringing up. Obviously launching in a market like this probably isn't like the most I should say convenient, to say the least. If you don't mind me kind of asking a little bit more on that, like how has that affected your launch, if at
Yeah.
all, in any way?
Yeah, I mean that's obvious that the market is not great, right? It's really flat, so things are a little less cool. But but in our initial launch, what we did, because we designed the protocol this way, where there is an NFT associated with each contract, we wanted to kind of make it a little bit more exciting and fun in the beginning, and eventually add some gamification to this, just to get some community engagement and learn more about our product, and etc. So what we did is we kind of we attached an image to those NFTs, because originally, those NFT ideas were just like a really convenient way to design the protocol, right? Just so we know who bought the contract, but and who has it in their wallet to claim. But if there is a claim, but for the launch, we were like, okay, let's actually do something with that, and we discovered that it's a really interesting idea to create community engagement. So one of the challenges was like, how do we create community engagement when volatility is like super low, right? And BracketX is like a vol product, so that's one of the things we did to get that started. But you're totally right. In a low vol environment, it's a little bit less exciting. But as vol picks up, which it will, it always does, there's going to be a lot more, I think, excitement around BracketX, and that's why we want to get out there in the community in Arbitrum now, during this time, so when the market picks back up, it's like front and center as an innovation and something people could use pretty easily.
No, yeah, yeah, totally hear you on that. And I think what's worth maybe even bringing up too is maybe your decision. Again, I'm obviously you chose a time period to launch, but you also chose obviously Arbitrum One to launch on. What kind of brought you to making that decision?
I can chime in there. So when we were looking at all the different chains, we've been in crypto for quite some time. So we actually talked to a lot of different L1s and L2s. And one of the things that we found, just one, we really like the off-chain labs team, right? So they were extremely helpful in, helping us talk to other teams, with technical issues that we had. A lot of the infrastructure that we needed to build the protocol, like being able to use oracles from Chainlink, using the graph, using Open Zeppelin, all that infrastructure was already built, right? So we could sort of plug and play using that. Of course, we also cared a lot about cost and speed. Given sort of how the protocol is designed, we needed something that was very low cost. Everything that we're building is on chain, and we need to make sure that we're able to sort of connect to different contracts quickly. And then I think finally, just like the community on Arbitrum, I think that there is a very robust DeFi and trading community, and seeing a lot of the other sort of derivatives and options protocol launch made sense for us to be part of that group. So,
Welcome to the family.
yeah.
Right.
Wait, is there someone else talking right now? I just noticed someone unmuted. Oh, no, we're good. Jason, you weren't talking, right? Just want to make sure. I saw you unmute. You muted again. You're good.
All
I'm
good.
good.
All good.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. All right. Yeah. No. I obviously have to agree. I think one thing, and this will definitely segue into my next question here. But I think one thing, obviously we value a ton of different things, but one of them obviously being really building a place where the people really just want to spend their time at. And by time I mean obviously projects making sure that they're comfortable launching on Arbitrum, people bridging over and knowing that there are projects on Arbitrum you're ready to use, and obviously different flavors of specific projects. I think I mentioned earlier there are a ton of different types of leveraged perpetual products that live on Arbitrum already. But I think it's actually to everyone's benefit, because it's like, in a way, instead of people having to choose, okay, like which chain am I going to go to find a different project, they pretty much already know to go to Arbitrum because literally everything is already here. And then from there, they kind of pick from there, if that makes sense. So I totally agree. But I think kind of off the back of that, what we also value a lot is making sure that whatever we're building internally, whatever we're, I guess you could say, amplifying, to our users, that everything is, as secure as can be. And I think part of that is, really just not only relying on us for making sure that we have our own, security and audit checks and whatnot on Arbitrum, but also the products themselves that are launching also have the same. Uh, what have you guys kind of done on that front in terms of like audits and security?
Yeah, great question. Security is absolutely critical. Becomes, it couldn't be more important. So the first thing we did is we had a Halborn audit, and they fully audited our code. We also had an extended testnet time where we spent about 3 weeks plus on testnet, really working out bugs with a lot of our um, um, a lot of Discord users. We had I think over 5,000-6,000 people on testnet, so that was great. So there was no bugs in the contract, obviously, but just little tweaks to the UI and things like that. We're using upgradable contracts, so if anything goes wrong, we can always fix that. And then we're administrating those contracts via OpenZeppelin's Defender product using a Gnosis multi-sig safe. So it's a very well, it's administered professionally. We have the multi-sig safe, which keeps everything nice and secure, and then the audits. So that's pretty much what we've done from a security point of view to make sure everything's tight.
Love to hear it. Yeah, and I truly think that dedication to just making sure the system is secure really does go a long way. I think farther than most people think. Um, e- even if not from like a perspective of people, I'm sure like not everyone's checking to see their audits every day, right? But I think just from knowing that you guys went out of your way to make sure that, hey, like there are multiple kind of audits going on and like different types of kind of security considerations you've taken, it makes a big difference. I think at the end of the day, especially to the end user.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, trust is paramount on blockchain. Without it, you have nothing.
Right, exactly. You know, funny enough, right? Even though we're supposed to be building trustless systems.
Right.
Yeah. I think, and kind of pivoting a little bit back to more of the, the app itself. Um, what were some of the challenges you guys kind of faced when building BracketX? Uh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, making something that was pure on chain hasn't been done by other people for derivatives, and there's a really good reason why, is because doing it on chain, the way that options work traditionally, requires constant repricing because you're constantly moving. They have fixed ladders of strike prices, and they have fixed expiration dates. So every second you're moving closer to the expiration. Every time the market price changes, you're moving closer or further away from the strike price. So prices are radically changing on a second by second basis. For TradFi, it works fine. You got a big thick pipe to the exchange, and everything works great. For DeFi, you don't have that ability to do that. The blockchain only updates every epoch. Also, it'd be very expensive to reprice every single epoch, right? So you really want to make sure that you have something where the price is evergreen. So what we did is we looked at the option pricing formula. There's four things that really affect it: how close you are to strike, how close you are to expiration, the risk-free rate of interest, and then what volatility you're pricing at. So we wanted to make something that didn't require updates. So what we did is we made the expiration a fixed amount. So if it's 3 days, it's 3 days the second you buy it to exactly 3 days of time later. So if you buy it at 1:52 p.m., at 1:52 p.m., 3 days later, it expires. Same thing with the strike. We made the strike a percentage, so it's always the same. So if the funder prices it at 3% above the money, then it's always 3% above the money, no matter what happens to spot, because we actually apply that percentage at the time of purchase when we mint the NFT that Mike spoke about. So those two variables now, stay the same in your pricing form. Your risk-free rate of interest is a pretty static thing, and then really the only thing that changes is your volatility assumption. Well, volatility by definition is a period-based measure, not an instantaneous measure. So it shouldn't change on a very frequent basis. So like what volatility you're pricing at. So because of that, people really don't have to reprice on Bracket very much to do the funding, only if their volatility assumption fundamentally changed. So that was a huge need, and that without solving that, without changing the way that options are traditionally priced, we just couldn't do that. Also, we had to create a way of doing order management. There's no solidity. You can't do sorting. You can't do a lot of the things that you normally need to do just to do basic order management. We're doing the graph in a very crafty way so that it's very useful, and allows us to stay on chain without having a database. So those two things were really the key to getting derivatives option strategies to be on chain.
And like, would you say that because this is coming from someone that, frankly, I have no business touching options unless I want to be, options are leverage, frankly, unless I want to be liquidated. Um, most option platforms are not necessarily purely on chain. I guess there's always some sort of component that isn't.
Yeah, I would say that, in terms of the innovations we built into Bracket, there's a few things. What we're doing is bull call spreads and bear put spreads. So what that means is that they start out of the money, and in our case, there's a 10% width to it, right? So you go into the money, let's say at 1% above spot, and then at 11% above spot, you hit the maximum claim, right? And that's the way these work. Now, normally, the way that you would execute that is you'd buy two legs of an option. So what you would do is you'd buy the lower price, or the option that's closer to the money, and you'd actually write or sell the option that's further away from the money. Now the problem is, to buy the option is easy. To sell the option, you have to set up a margin account. You have to, and that's a whole to do, right? To set up a margin account, and then you have to collateralize it, and then you can finally write something, and then someone has to buy your option. So what we did is we packaged it into one product that has both legs essentially in the product, right? So there is no options. It has an option. We basically tell people it has an option. It has an option strategy like payoff, but it's not actually an option where in the traditional sense. I mean, obviously it is an option in in sort of the broader definition of what would be options, right? But it's not like exactly like what you could buy on a traditional exchange. So, so that was one of the keys. One of the other things we want to solve is to have the fixed payoffs. Like, one of the other things that makes buying options difficult is that, or buying option strategies where you're buying two different legs, is that it's very difficult to kind of time both legs so that you buy them at the same time and you get the kind of payoff you want to get, because you're doing two separate, one buy, one sell, and then together they're sort of forming the strategy. Where what we did is, we essentially changed what we solved for. So in the traditional pricing formula, what happens is you put variables in, and what pops out is your premium, and that's what keeps changing because you keep moving closer and further from spot. In our system, what we said is, look, we're going to offer a 10x payout. And so that's essentially fixing the premium. And then we just have to figure out, okay, well, how much out of the money do we have to price leg one and leg two of this synthetic options that make up the way that you would price a bracket, such that we could, hit that type of a multiple. So what it makes it is, from a consumer point of view, you come into our platform, you don't know anything about options. A person like you could easily access our platform without having any deep knowledge of options, because all you're doing is saying, okay, I'd like a 10x payoff, and I'm comfortable that maybe it will move into this range. So the whole thing that you're really assessing as a buyer is, do you feel that the range within the time frame is going to be achievable, right? So it's a 10% range. It's, let's say, a 10x payoff. So every percent it moves up, you get another X, right? So if it moves into the bracket, you're basically at zero. If it goes up, 10% of the width, then you're at break even. If it goes up, 2/10 of the width, then you basically doubled your money. If it goes up 3/10 of the width, you basically made, triple your money. So as it goes up, and if it hits the end point of the bracket, you make your 10x, right? So that's sort of how it works. So having that way of buying it and making it so easy is a huge innovation in terms of the way it's sold. And then, of course, the other innovation would be, the method pricing, which I described before.
I'm aping as we speak.
He's going in purchasing brackets.
Not financial advice. That's awesome. Wow. No, I mean, and truly, I mean, like, obviously, like you mentioned that you don't necessarily have to be like the most involved to really understand some of these things. But I think that's part of like one of the cool innovations I'm seeing as time goes on, just generally among all these financial platforms that before, like, I mean, like for example, like in traditional finance, no way, like would I be able to understand any of like the charts or anything like that kind of coming out of there. But I feel like crypto is actually making a lot of this stuff just so much easier. And when I say crypto, I mean like teams like yourselves are really truly trying to kind of break the barrier of just making things understandable by the layman, which is really really cool.
Yeah, crypto's really led to a whole new wave of innovation like you simply could never do this kind of stuff in TradFi because only the biggest players can do it. So you basically have to, convince some huge player or exchange to basically offer some new product. In DeFi, literally, you come up with a great idea, you launch it, and I think brackets and our other concepts that we're coming up with are going to be key primitives in DeFi for a long time to come because it's just cool new ideas, and that's what makes DeFi so amazing is that it actually allows small people to actually experiment with all new products that you could never launch in TradFi.
No, no, totally agree. I definitely agree. So I think on that then maybe before we do get into this, like a macro question here or there, because I'd love to hear your thoughts maybe on some of those things. Is just generally in terms of roadmap, like what's coming up for BracketX? I mean, you guys just launched. Things are going well. Like,
Yeah.
what can we look forward to?
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for the question. BracketX is really cool because, like Jason said, it allows for like people to come in the community funding and buying. Right, they can do both sides, and it's a really great product when there's volatility in the market, and that's how it was designed. However, given this new market, and things are not very volatile, there's low volatile situations. We wanted to come up with something that what we think is a first in DeFi, a way to take advantage of low volatility and make money that way. And so with BracketX, you have to get into the bracket, right, to start earning return as a buyer. With our new concept, we're looking at a bracket that you have to stay within, essentially. So what we call channel or bracket that you have to stay within for a certain amount of time. And if you do that, you earn up to a certain multiple. And so we're working on this product. We should have it out by end of year for sure. And I think it's the first product in DeFi that allows people to kind of make this kind of money or at least buy products like this in a low volatile environment. So really excited by that. We think it could also work in a high volatile environment, especially just because the channel that you would be having to stay within might just get wider, right? And in a low volatile market, it might be narrower. But there's really no other product that does something like that, and it gives buyers the chance to kind of bet that it'll stay in, and then funders a chance to say, well, how wide should this channel be? And so that's a really really innovative product. We're very excited about. We're entering audit soon. So, that's the kind of next step. And then, of course, with brackets, now that we're kind of filling out the portfolio here of products, we're trying to hit every market condition. So if there's low volatility, high volatility, people can get involved here and it'll kind of service the market. So we're expanding our product set. And then also what's coming after that, is an integrated version of the product where it acts a little bit more like insurance on downside protection. So, for instance, at a DEX or at a wallet app where you're at checkout buying some other crypto and it says, hey, do you want to add a little downside protection for a fixed 1%? Right. And they'll give you the range and they'll say, hey, if you want this, it's just like if something bad happens really soon within the next 7 or 15 days, that, you can get some money back if it does happen. So it's more like an insurance product. But we're about kind of how we're piecing this together. As Jason said, the idea is to create some new primitives that are going to be useful in the future of crypto, in the future of DeFi, that others will, use within their products or use as a strategy. And so that's kind of the future, the immediate future for us.
Awesome to hear. Yeah, that's great. And I think, by the way, it's great that you guys already have like a ton of things kind of lined up, even so soon after launch. Definitely shows how kind of forward thinking. You guys are definitely treating it. I think it's similarly, frankly. I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe just this is more generally not necessarily related to Bracket, I guess, but given everything that's been going on, I don't have to repeat anything specifically, but like what do you foresee happening in terms headed into 2023, for the crypto market, you know? I'd love to hear kind of y'all's thoughts since you're clearly more well versed in the and like the I guess I could say speculation side of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So, I think just looking at sort of the past couple of years, we go through these cycles, in crypto, right? And so this is definitely a bear cycle, right? And I think it's been, this last month has been a tough month for everybody. I don't think a lot of people expected, FTX and some of the exchanges to blow up the way that they did. But I think that, going into 2023, this does sort of paint a bright sort of future for DeFi, right? A lot of people have moved off exchanges. They've gone, into self custody or looked for other solutions where they're in charge of their own crypto. And now, I think for DeFi projects, there's a lot of opportunity to sort of build innovative products. And one of the things that we're kind of excited about is we're seeing still a lot of Web 2 traditional companies are still working on crossovers, right? We see it in fintechs. We're seeing a lot of consumer brands like Starbucks, they're working on a loyalty program. Nike just launched their digital hub swoosh. So that could potentially bring in new people into crypto. And for them to find really simple products, I think we're still trying to, simplify a lot of the traditional, like really complicated topics in trading, and as we talked about before, like charts and all these different types of options products. I'm trying to make it really, really easy for new people that come into this space to use them. And I think, yeah, we'll most likely. I mean, talking to a lot of builders and developers. I mean, people are still building. I think the bad actors obviously have been wrecked, and I think that they'll rightfully go away. But the people that are here for the long haul are still going to be here. So
Yeah. Yep. We believe in self custody and kind of how that's more comfortable for a lot of users. I mean, not every user is going to use DeFi straight off the bat. Like today, of course, DeFi is small and most people use centralized exchanges. But after this event, I think DeFi will have a catalyst and grow, and the Arbitrum ecosystem is super cool, and I think a lot of products are gravitating towards it for those reasons. And as Pelly mentioned, in a low in bear markets, you see tons of new ideas spawning, and kind of have to have innovation because in the wake of a collapse or something, you need to get people interested and get people engaged. And so we kind of discovered that a lot of these innovations as part of that process, especially like associating NFTs and with the contracts and having them be NFTs essentially, is a massive engagement boost for us, and also a good way to to operate the protocol. But macro wise, like Pelly said, most large brands are starting to tinker in the space, use digital assets, NFTs, as a way to engage and then harmonize with the rest of their digital properties. And so we think that's just going to continue. And we also do think that the competition is going to heat up. I mean, we have a lot of traditional fintechs or financial players sitting on the sideline just looking at this and licking their chops and saying, "Wow, like there's going to be a huge opportunity here for us. FTX is out. A lot of these guys are out. We have money. Like let's build and let's try to get involved." So we think this is a great time for builders to be building.
Great to hear. Yeah, no, exactly. And frankly, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, people will be building no matter what. Like, obviously, market condition, frankly, at the end of the day, you know, uh, is really just a factor. But people build whether the market's bad, good, or otherwise. So, really appreciate you guys, of course, kind of being here, building with us, and obviously building for the community. I think kind of just to close out, is there anything, what I should say is, for those who are in the audience who maybe kind of want to join BracketX, the community, contribute in any way, or just get more information, how would they go ahead and do that?
Yep. So join BracketX.fi. Just go on BracketX.fi, the URL, and it'll have all the links there for you. You can go to Discord. You can join the community and learn more there. We have a Git book, but yeah, go to BracketX.fi as the main point of starting, and then follow us obviously on our socials for keeping up with news. Bracket Lab is our main social, but yeah, just the website's the best place to go.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll also make sure, by the way, for those who maybe got in a little bit later, to post the actual link to their announcement post going live in this space. So just in case you missed it, you can go ahead and click right there and take a look.
Great.
Yeah. That being said, I really appreciate you guys for coming on today. It's been great, and we look forward to seeing you flourish on Arbitrum.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the time.
Have a good one, y'all.